So the first step you're going to want to do with your house is to draw out the property lines so that you make sure you're staying within them, things like that. So I just pulled up one of the addresses and you can just type it into Google and on Google Maps, and you're going to want to go to the satellite view. If for some reason it doesn't show satellite down here, you can click on it and then it says more and find satellite. So that way you can see your empty plot. And I'm going to zoom in here. So we can use a measure tool in Google Maps to measure the rough size of your lot. So how you get to it, and this is how I gave you like those rough measurements from the proposed lot locations. So if I right click kind of near a corner of my lot, so I can kind of tell like this looks like a fence or like some sort of line with that lot, and over here is probably the other line because they have a fence there. So kind of up at that corner, I can right click and I'm going to do measure distance, and that gave me 1 point, and then I can click and measure another. So this tells me it's 35.65 feet. So I'm going to sit around and say 35 feet. So you're going to want to write that down or like draw a little diagram on a piece of paper. So we have 35 feet, and then I can drag this corner and go to the back part of the lot because that's all the way back at the alley. And this says 121.83 feet. I'd probably do 122. And I would check all four sides just because it might not be perfectly square. So this one looks like about 35. And then I can go again, about 120. So you do want to make sure if there is a sidewalk that you aren't going past the sidewalk, because you obviously can't build your house on top of the city sidewalk. And you're just going to want to like take note of where the main street is and if there is an alley. And you're probably going to want to keep this pulled up as you draw your site plan in Revit. So I'm going to show you in Revit now. So I'm going to start a new architectural template project. And I'm going to go to our site plan. So I'm going to double click on that to go to site. And in here, I'm going to go to massing and site. And we might get into some more of these things later, but we're just going to start with doing property lines. So using those measurements that you measured on Google Maps, you're going to take your property lines. We're going to do it by sketching. And we have these different tools here. So I can just draw out and guess or get close. If you need to zoom in, you can get more exact. So you're going to want to go to like a solid foot measurement. I know it's kind of guesstimating with the Google Maps. It's not going to be exact, but it'll be close enough. So I think, was it like 36-ish? I didn't write it down. I was bad. And then I can move down and go the other way. So these lots are pretty long. So a lot of the times the lots might not be perfectly square, especially with some of the other ones that are available. So you might have to play around with the measurements a little bit. So after you draw it, I'm going to click my modify, and I can click on a line, and it gives me, this is actually the measurement for up there. So if I click that measurement, I should be able to move it up there. Well, I know that that top one is 36. If I click over here, there's our 120. So you can use these measurements a little bit. And I find that if you get this top and bottom one set to exactly what you need, then you can kind of use these other lines to connect and get it close. You might not be able to get it exactly, but get it as close as you can. So I'm going to pretend that this is my property line here. Got a little bit bigger in the back. So I'm going to click this green check mark, and it gives us these dotted lines. Even if I go to level 1, we can see our property line here. So whatever you're designing obviously has to stay within your property, and you're going to need to look to see if your city has any special setback laws. So I'll make another short little video that talks about setback laws. But going back to our site plan, Another thing that's helpful when looking at your site plan is knowing where the main roads are or alley, things like that. So this one has a main road at the top and an alley access in the bottom. So to draw that on here, we're going to go to Annotate, and using our detail line, we can use these same draw tools to draw out our streets. So I'm just going to grab a rectangle, and hope it's not letting me snap. So I'm just going to do a line and go across this way, and I'm just going to make it a ways out. It doesn't have to be exact, but just kind of signifying. So that is, actually it would be a sidewalk there on that street, but that works because there's the main road there. I can then draw our alley access back here. All right, so then with Annotate, you can even add text in. So I can write this, and this is Hawthorne Avenue East. And down here, I can write alley, so that when you're looking at your plan, or whoever's looking at your plan knows how it's situated. So you should draw out your plot lines using the dimensions from Google Maps, and then with Annotate and the detail line, you're going to label where your streets are. And if you're on a corner street, you would have another street on the side. One street that I'll show you here. So let me zoom down to where I know where it is, because it's near where I live, actually. Too far. There we go. There's Renberg Place address. So this one actually has a cul-de-sac on one side, and then these streets. So this 353 spot. And this one, the address is on Renberg, but you could make the front entrance be on this main street or on Oakdale off the cul-de-sac, your kind of choice. For this one, it is a little bit more weirdly shaped, so you might have to do a couple more measurements. There is this cul-de-sac at the top, so if I were to draw that in here instead of like Hawthorne, we'll say this is my cul-de-sac. With the detail lines, you can grab a circle tool and kind of just guesstimate and get that like curved shape there, and then you can draw the other road off and connect it. So you can use that as well. Obviously cut into it a little bit. You could go back in, delete these property lines and make it round, but you're probably not going to get that close to your property lines anyways. So just make sure you are looking at your plot, typing in that address of the house that your family chose, measuring it out. So right clicking, I have to clear, measure distance, and you can get as many points as you can to help you get it as close to possible. And on the next video, we'll talk a little bit about setbacks.